Welcome back to the CNC Auto Channel, your friendly neighborhood mechanic here. Hopefully you can hear me. We're out here in the wind today, but of course it's Oklahoma where the wind comes sweeping down the plain. We're going to evaluate this project truck today, and I wanted to show you some things to look for when you're looking at a potential project car. One thing to remember is no matter what car you're going to go look at, almost all of them suffer from certain problem areas. So make sure you go online and look for your particular project car. Where are the main problem areas that you need to look at? This is a 1967 Ford F100 truck. They're really popular these days. And the things that I'm going to show you to look for on this truck today are the same things that you're going to be looking for on just about any old project car. One of the first things that you want to do when you walk up to a project is overall just look at it. Look at the lines of the vehicle. You're looking for gaps between panels like this. You want to make sure that those gaps are nice and even around it. It tells you a lot about whether or not that truck's been tweaked or that car's been in a wreck potentially. You can see the front gap looks really nice on that door right there. The back gap, even though it's a little wide, it's still very nice and straight. Those are good signs to begin with. One of the things you want to make sure that you do is bring a few tools with you. I brought a flashlight, a screwdriver or something to sort of poke around with, and a magnet. Now, the type of magnet that you pick isn't really super important. I picked one that's really bright color so you can see it. But you don't really want to get one of those super strong magnets, because what we're going to use this for is looking for thick body filler on the truck. The magnet should stick to the metal very easily. If it's got an old repair that has a thick wad of Bondo on it, you put that magnet on it and it's going to want to fall off. It's not going to be able to stick to the metal. So one of the things you can do is go around the car with your magnet and make sure in the places that are known for rust that that magnet has no problem sticking. See, this one's in good shape. One of the first things you want to look at as well is just come stand here and look down the side of the vehicle. You want to look and see how straight are the lines. Do you see any waviness to it? Do you see any of the body panels sticking out from one another? That gives you another indicator of how sturdy the foundation is, if there's been any kind of accident damage in the past. Let's look on the other side. Again, you can see the back of that door sticking out just a little bit over here. Now, that's not a problem. It's just that the door wasn't shut all the way. But those are the sort of things you're looking for. While you're doing that, notice, especially on a project car that you want to keep somewhat original, trim pieces like this are super hard to find. So make sure that the vehicle has all of its trim. Even if it's a little bent out of shape, that's okay. Making it look pretty is easier than trying to find another piece. This is an old truck. One of the first things that you want to look at on all these old trucks, whether it's a Ford, Chevy, Dodge, doesn't matter, is going to be these cab corners down here. Water gets inside, it'll seep in and run down and collect over the years in these cab corners, and oftentimes there'll be some other material in there that'll just keep that moist and it'll rot out over time. We're going to crawl under there. Yeah, unfortunately, that's the only way to do it, is to look up underneath there. And we're going to see what kind of shape the cab corners are in this truck. So get your handy light. I've got this coverall on so that I don't get too much mud and dirt on me. Okay, so let's see how these cab corners look. This is the cab corner on the driver's side, just a little bit of rust right here. As we mentioned, it's a notorious spot for it. As you can tell, the rocker here is looking pretty good so far. And here we are in the cab corner. And believe it or not, it actually looks like it's in pretty good shape. But as we're down here, you want to look around a little bit, and you can see some certain things will show up, like this support for the floor. It's got a little rust on it. Frame looks pretty good, just surface rust. And over here is the corner of the bed, and it too, surprisingly, looks very good. So overall, other than this frame support right here, it looks good on this side. And you'll want to check both sides. These areas around the wheel are notorious for rusting on a lot of cars. If you can, try to get back behind there and make sure that it's nice and clean. Another area we want to look at really closely is in front of the cab, behind the wheels. This is another area that's notorious for rusting. So again, if you can, get back behind your panels and look for corrosion and rust back on these fenders, and also where the firewall comes down and meets the floor pan. This is another area where there's often a lot of corrosion. Check out the brakes on the vehicle, especially if you're going to take it for a drive. Make sure that the brake lines are there, that it's not leaking any brake fluid. Again, this is a good chance to look at the suspension, looking again for rust and corrosion, especially on these parts that where the suspension connects to the vehicle. Okay, one of the other things we want to do is look underneath at the drive line. This is a old Ford, got a big 9-inch Ford rear end. That U-joint appears to be in place. The rear end has some oil on it, but maybe that means it's still got oil in it. Spring packs, spring perches, everything looking good. You don't want too much rust on this. The bottom of the engine, another place to look really closely for the health of that engine. As you can see, there's quite a bit of oil that's leaked down these, and that's going to be really common. Again, look on the ground underneath it. That'll tell you where things have been leaking. Here in the bottom of the engine, you can see lots of oil, lots of dirt. It's an old engine. This one that's leaked, most of them are going to look like that if they haven't been rebuilt. That's actually a good thing to look for, is some evidence that it's been driven, it's been used. It's not all cleaned off. They're not trying to hide anything. Check out the bottom of the transmission. Make sure that there's not really bad leaks. If it's been sitting somewhere for a while, make sure there's not a humongous puddle underneath it. That'll be an indicator of the health of the drivetrain. Especially back here, we want to look at the tail or output of the transmission. You want to see what kind of shape is that in. Is there really bad leaks back here? What kind of shape are these U-joints in? Back of the transmission, the drive shaft looking good. Even the cables for the emergency brakes are still in place. Now it appears that the exhaust has been cut off of here, but that's no big deal. One of the most important things to look at are the frame rails, especially on the front and the back of the vehicle. You want to make sure that there's no evidence that these frame rails here have ever been bent out of shape or cut or welded on. A lot of things can be taken in and out of these vehicles, but these frame rails need to be in good shape, and this one doesn't appear to have any waviness to it. Doesn't appear to have any cuts or welds on it, so looking good. See this side here, also nice and straight. If this car had been in a wreck on the front, a lot of times that frame rail will have some waviness where they tried to bend it back into shape, but it just doesn't quite look right ever again. Thought it was interesting that appears an armadillo has made a home right here underneath the rear axle of this truck. It's been sitting here a while. And that's what happens when the car sits somewhere for a while. It becomes a home for lots of different critters. Man, isn't this a beautiful looking truck? Look how straight that grill is. All the plastics are going to be cracked on these old cars, but that stuff's real easy to replace. Um, Looking for, again, straightness. How's that bumper line? How is the line of the hood? Are there any major dents anywhere on this? Any major rust spots? This particular vehicle, we're not seeing any of that. Looking at the windshield area. How's the windshield? How's the chrome around it? How's the roof line? All of that looks pretty straight on this car. Around here in the back, again, looking for the lines, looking to make sure that the trim is there, looking to see how bent up the tailgate is, because that'll tell you if you need to try and buy another tailgate or how much work you're going to be looking at when it comes to body work. Chrome is here. The plastics are perished, but again, it's an old truck. You're gonna expect that. I love these old bumpers. A lot of them used to have the stamped steel bumpers with the name of the car dealership where they came from. So come over here. Let's look inside the bed. This one's got these cool old bed rails on it. And if we look down inside of the bed, we've got nice steel floor. Appears to still be here. Now you're going to see there are certain areas where a lot of trash will collect. Those are the areas where you want to go and poke around a little bit. Make sure it's still in good shape. If you suspect that there's been any kind of body work done in there, that's where your magnet comes in handy. You want that magnet to stick really good. Another area that's really notorious on these vehicles for rot is the front of these beds. All the water and all that trash will come up here. Still solid. One of the things you're going to find on all your old project cars is that the rubber around windows or inside the door seals is going to be perished, gone, has to be replaced. As you can tell here, this rubber is cracked. That's letting water get in, that's letting nastiness inside, and you sure don't want to repair the inside of a vehicle and still allow this sort of thing to get in and ruin it. Now we want to look at the doors. As I mentioned before, all the rubber around the windows and around the door seals are going to be perished. But one of the things you want to pay real close attention to is the bottoms of these doors. Come on down here and take a look at this. A lot of times water will get in that window and come and sit down here, cause rust, but this one's in good shape. Original door cards here, made out of metal. Nice, still in good shape. Look at that old red color that the interior was. The owner would like to keep that, and I think that's going to be a nice pop of red when we're done on a black truck. Here we are in the inside the door frame. Again, all of these rubber parts just going to be brittle and no longer sealing. Those have to be replaced on all these old cars. Here on the rocker panel is another place to look for rust and corrosion. Still in great shape. This one is, but a lot of times you'll see this will be rusted out, but don't worry, all these parts are readily available in the aftermarket, and just cut out the old, weld in the new, and you're good to go. Another place that we really want to look real close on old project cars is down here on the floorboards. A lot of water will seep in from the windshield area, run down the floorboard and pool in this corner right here. And so this is an area that you want to use your little poker, dig around. If you look right here real close, let me get a little bit more light on the subject. You'll see there's some rot here, but again, you're poking, you're making sure that you're still got thick enough metal it's not poking through, and this one's in good shape. A couple of other common areas we want to look at are these door hinges, where they secure to the frame. Make sure that that's sturdy back behind there. Especially you don't want that foundation that the door is hanging off of to be rotted out. Another real common area for corrosion and rust is in these corners of the windshield on top of the dash. This area right in here, water will pool and rot out and rust out. The dashboard looks to be in good shape. All the original cool old gauges. Look at this old steering wheel, man. And look at this. This guy's truck had original air conditioning from the factory. Look at this original AM radio. Nice clean dashboard. Everything looking good here. This truck's got a nice headliner. A lot of trucks didn't come with a headliner, but this one does have one, and that's a nice addition. It keeps it a little quieter in here, so that was an upgrade. Obviously, the seat needs to be recovered, but that's going to be the case everywhere. One of the things we want to do is look back behind the seats of these old cars. And as you can see here, as is very common, you'll have evidence of rodents that have been in here. Oh, look at that. Looks like perhaps an original owner's manual kit. Wow, that's amazing. But on these old trucks, they used to put the gas tank here behind the seat. It's probably a good idea to go ahead and relocate that somewhere else. It's a little bit more safe, so you're not breathing any fumes and you don't have any risk of fire behind you. But the gas tank appears to be in good shape. Talking about those cab corners, you can see here behind the seat how down in that corner of the cab, all that trash piles up and sits over time, and that'll cause that rust to occur. That's the reason why the cab corners are always gone on these old trucks. One of the things you want to look for is the shape of the glass. This one's got some pretty bad scratching here for some reason, but overall it looks pretty good. A lot of times these old glass panels will delaminate and you'll see sort of a fogginess or some bubbling, especially around the corners of them. So watch for that. All right, let's look under the hood. See what we're working with. Come on over here and let's see what jewel lies beneath. All right. Wow, okay. So here we have a big block Ford motor. This is the 352, I believe. All original in all its glory. Even look right here. We got the original washer bottle bag. Okay, so some of the things we're looking at on this motor, you can see that there's quite a bit of oiliness to the top of it. So it's been leaking from somewhere, probably some valve cover leaks here. It's been sitting here a long time. You can see there's quite a collection of dirt dauber nests. This one was run on propane, so it's got a propane meter here that a lot of cars won't, but it's got a carburetor on it. Carburetor looks pretty dirty, got a lot of nests on it, so you know that it's going to need a rebuild. A lot of times you'll find evidence that rodents or critters have been living underneath the hood, and this one's no different. And one of the things that you want to look for, just like right here, we can see that a rodent's been living here, and sure enough, there's a chewed up wire. So you want to make sure that the wiring's still in good shape. Anytime something sits for a while, for some reason, those mice and rats love to chew on wires. So this has the original radiator in it. And if you notice this green color here and even on the fins in the back, that's corrosion of the copper that's in this radiator, and an indication that it's probably got a leak or two in it. So when you see that, you can go ahead and plan on having to replace or repair the radiator on your project. So under the hood, one of the things you want to check as well for rust and corrosion again are these fenders. Now, just sort of like I showed on the outside, you can use your magnet or you can just tap on it. If it sounds like it's solid metal, it likely is. One of the places you want to look, especially on these old trucks, is along the bottom of the hood. This is a place where they rust sometimes. because again, water can get back and pool back behind that lip. This one appears to be in really good shape, but watch especially in these areas right along here for rust on old trucks and old cars that you look at. Quick review of the things that we pointed out and that I'd like for you guys to remember. Overall, looking at the lines of the vehicle, looking at the waviness of the side, that'll tell you about whether it's been in any accidents. You're looking for rust in the notoriously bad areas for that vehicle, which might be behind these wheels, bottoms of the doors, on a truck, especially cab corners. Don't forget those cab corners. Again, bottom and over the wheel arches. Make sure it's got all of its trim. Check out the glass, check out the rubber. Look at the engine. Does it have everything? Is it missing anything? Look at the suspension. Look at the brakes. Thank you guys for coming along as we looked over this potential project car. I hope that this helps you guys when you go out to look at your next project car. Some of the same things that we pointed out on this truck are some of the same things you need to look for on a car or a truck of any age. There's absolutely no way that I could be exhaustive in the things that we need to look at when we're evaluating a project car. So if there's something in particular that I might have forgotten or that you think we ought to share with our community here, please leave a comment down below. Like and subscribe my videos. It really helps us to reach a greater audience, and I hope that this was enjoyable and helpful to you guys. Have a great day. Thank you and God bless.